Hi, everybody. This is Coach Coons along with Coach Porter, welcoming you into a beautiful Tuesday night here. Beautiful night in Alabama. I know that, and I'm sure it is in West Virginia at your spot too. It's warm,
Warm.
warm, and more warm down here.
Yep.
But we're going to try to hit a whole bunch of topics tonight with some different things, and the big one today: over 5,000 kids. 5,000 baseball players in the transfer portal. What does that mean for you? That Chad, that may mean they need us more than ever to help them because the ones that are going to suffer from that are the high school
Yep.
kids.
More than ever, you need guidance, you need help, you need someone you can trust, you need someone you can confide in, you need someone that can help you. And we're it. So there's a lot of guys looking for places to play, and it's 5,000 kids in the transfer portal. That's concerning. That's
Well,
concerning. It because um, all the transferring that's going on, it's concerning to me because being able to find a home for 4 years was so important to a lot of guys, and uh, so I think it's a real difficult time for coaches. It puts a lot of stress on the coaches and the programs, and I think it's a really stressful time for the student athletes who are the most important people involved here. So it's
well,
crazy times.
it's 5,000 more players that are being recruited that a few years ago were not recruited because those coaches were at these high school games or summer league games and things like that, watching players there. Now it's free reign. The days of well the days of the dynasty programs may no longer be because it's not where you're staying there. Forget staying for 4 years. There's guys jumping and softball players as well. They're jumping after 1 year, two
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
And it could be various reasons. Get close, get closer to home, family there, friends go there, uh, or it could be I didn't play much as a freshman and I was an all star on my team. I should be playing. But those types of things. So it's a lot of reasons. But what it does is throws a wrench in high school athlete, softball, baseball athlete, trying to get a real good look for a team that now is out there recruiting a freshman who still has 3 to 4 years of eligibility left.
yeah. The good thing about 5,000 kids in the transfer portal is there's a bunch of coaches looking for players in June because
Correct.
there's holes in the roster. So that's good. But kids have always transferred. I transferred. Obviously I recruited a lot of transfers, and and a lot of kids that I coached transferred. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. It's a lot easier today.
Oh,
Uh,
much easier.
it's much easier to transfer today, which you know which helps the student athlete. But I do think sometimes uh, you know, kids get impatient, and I'm just going to get in the portal, and it doesn't work out, and they ended up not. There's a lot of kids out of those 5,000 that aren't going to be playing college baseball this fall.
Well, you,
That's
you
concerning.
you got to take into consideration once you take the chance and go in that portal and you were a scholarship kid, whether you were playing or not, your scholarship is gone until you are offered another one from another school or that coach of the school you left, you go back, that scholarship has opened up. So that could be
Yes.
somebody else's. So you're right. Your career, it's a crapshoot. Your career, unless you know hands down you can going to be somewhere else, could be over.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there are really, really good stories of kids transferring and out of the portal and all that stuff. So there's some good, but let's face it, there's a lot of kids that aren't going to find places to play.
Right.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
kids that get in the portal, don't get help from somebody else, and just sit there and wait on a phone call
that's right. That's right.
or an email back, or they've called another coach. Recruiting's different. I've been out of college baseball for 3 years, and it's changed a lot. Um, just because the rules, the portal was. I was just telling somebody the other day, the portal was there when I was coaching in college 3 years ago. Just different, you know,
Oh,
just different,
no question.
much
NIL
different.
changes a lot of things. I mean, it's a pay to play. It's a pay to play league now. It's there used to be high school, college, and professional. Now there's advanced high school, minor leagues, and professional. Because college is, the and I heard this on TV the other night. The NCAA keeps using the term student athlete. Well, in back a few years ago, that was very true. Now, with NIL and everything else, is it a student athlete or is it an athlete looking to get the best deal? So there's a lot of things being thrown out there, but in the end, you've got to be a competitor, a great competitor to be noticed. And leads me right into the next step. I found a great article today, the 5 traits of great competitors. Now, this could be baseball, this could be softball, this could be anything. The 5 traits. Number 1, preparedness. Are you prepared in a team practice? Are you prepared at home? Are you prepared on your own time? Are you focused? Are you dedicated? Are you purposeful? How many kids do you know, or you've coached, Chad? I know I've coached them, that they were that great, or maybe they weren't that great and needed a little push.
Yeah.
Are they? What's the key term? Are they beasts for preparation? Are they willing to get there and do that stuff? I mean, you had guys that were, I'm sure, they knew what this player was going to do inside and outside.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Being prepared, I think, is part of having that competitive mindset as well as an overachieving mindset, right? Guys that are prepared can overachieve, and everybody needs to try to overachieve.
oh, absolutely.
Overachiever doesn't mean you're bad. I had to explain that to 3 kids this week, high school kids, that hey, look, you're an overachiever. You're good enough to play college baseball, but you're an overachiever, and there's
Correct.
nothing wrong with that. I was an
Right.
overachiever,
Right.
and you've got to get every drop out of your ability. You've got to work. You've got to you got to be above the bar, so to speak. So
Correct.
I think that's part of those two go hand in hand.
Yes. Number 2, are you smart? Now, I'm not talking smart academically because I was always told if you're smart enough to get in, you're smart enough to get out. So that'll work academically. But are you smart? Do you watch the game? Do you know the game? That's huge. How many guys come and say, "Hey, I'm a softball player." Do you know the game? Do you know the rules of the game? Uh, are you situationally sound? Do you think over in your head where that next play is going to go? How many times you see outfielders catch the ball, hold it, and not really sure? Uh, they play the mental game. I think it is a great way to look at it. Uh, they're strategic.
Yeah.
They watch the game for weaknesses. They look for tendencies of their opponent. It's almost the kid that plays the game when they're not on the field. And, it's, I'll tell you, the one that sticks in my head, I keep thinking about, and she's in the press all the time now, is Caitlin Clark. She seemed to know the game. She seemed to know where the next pass had to go. And of course, that's basketball. But baseball, not much different.
Yeah. You've got to know the game to play the game, at a high level. Very few guys can get away without knowing it. And you got to watch it. And you got to watch a lot of games. It's like challenging kids. Watch this game tonight. Watch this game. But the truth be told, most kids have problems watching the game when they're in the game.
Correct.
Not, and we're asking because everything is such fast pace. Baseball sometimes crawls at a snail's pace. Baseball sometimes what is it? In a 7 inning game, there's like 15 minutes of action or something
Right, right.
wild like that. So, baseball fights the ability to stay focused. That's why you've got to understand the game to know that on any given pitch in any given game, there's so many different options that can happen, so many different variables.
Well, you take softball too.
Yeah.
I mean, softball is quick. I mean, you
Yeah.
better know where you're going to go because if you have to second guess a play at first base, it's too late. They're there.
Yeah.
The third baseman is right on top. I mean, it just amazes me watching women's softball, and you got these women that slap the ball, power hitters, and that third baseman is 20 feet from her.
Yeah. It's a fast game. It's a speed
And
game.
you got to know. 3, the term we used to use back. Are you gritty? Well, what's gritty mean? Are you mentally tough? Are you determined? Are you ready to go the extra mile? If things aren't going your way or the team's way, what do you do to correct it?
Yeah.
Can you bad call? And this goes bad calls, errors, rough weather, playing. How many people have we had? Oh, the field's not playable. You know what? You can play in a mud hole if they tell you the game's going to go. But keep your emotions in check and keep competing. Are you mentally tough to do that? Nobody likes to play in the rain. I mean, the College World Series, obviously, they're getting poured on in Omaha tonight. But what happens when it starts raining? You blame it on the slippery ball? You do this, you do that? Are you mentally tough to get through it?
Yeah. And that goes for the cold. That goes for the heat.
Oh, cold especially. Yeah,
The
exactly.
the cold wears on you.
Yes. Yes.
And even if you live in the South, maybe not so much Florida, maybe not so much certain South Texas, Southern California, Arizona. In Texas, even if you play in Texas, you're going to do, if you play in Central Texas and above, you're going to deal with cold weather. If you play in Northern California, you're going to deal with cold weather. If you play in even North Florida, you're going to run into some cold weather every once in a while. And sometimes cold weather is relative to what you are used to, but it wears on you, and you don't look forward to getting outside. Got to go outside in this, but just like anything else, being mentally tough gets you used to the cold weather, gets you used to the warm weather, it gets you used to playing in awful situations. And as a coach, you try to find small competitive advantages. And always used to think, when I coached in Texas, playing in the heat, even in April, March, when it was 95 degrees, and it really was at times, I always thought that prepared us, that gave us a competitive advantage for teams that weren't used to it. And then when I coached in the North and even coaching in high school, I always think that getting our kids out and practicing in the cold weather is a competitive advantage. Right. Because when we're used to it, how many teams have showed up at a ballpark I've coached at, and they're like, and right away you got an advantage because they don't want to be there.
Well, and it also takes you right back up to number one, which is preparedness.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a game in Southern Alabama this year with snow flurries. I'm sitting there in a winter coat that I would be wearing in upstate New York or up where it's snow in Southern Alabama, and it was cold. So, are you prepared knowing the time of year? How many players, high school age? Hey, Mom, can you get me a Gatorade? It's 80 degrees out. Have that stuff ready, and all that stuff. Be ready to go. 4, we're getting there. Are you consistent? Think about the College World Series that's been on now, if you've been watching it, or the Softball World Series. Could you tell what players were dangerous to be up to bat? Because why? They're consistent. They're reliable. They can be trusted. Their worth ethic, mental toughness, attention to detail, all the above makes them consistent in their performance. And what does that do? That makes them great players.
Yeah.
You know, being consistent. Because a coach knows, I know I love consistent players because I knew what I was going to get.
Yep. And consistently, that goes to the mental game too. Being consistent in your thoughts, your mind, your leadership, how you talk to others,
Exactly.
and coaches don't forget. If any coaches are watching, that consistency in your leadership and how you deal with your players goes a long way with your players. That's going to affect their performance. And any coach will tell you, most coaches, right? There are some really, really good ones that have that down pat. Most of us have failed miserably on both ends of the spectrum at that, but
Yeah.
have learned the hard way that being consistent in your emotions, okay, makes a huge deal. And
No doubt.
being consistent in how you prepare your team makes a huge deal in their performance.
Exactly. Number 5, are you a leader? Now, you always hear, well, I'm not the captain. Doesn't matter. Leaders, you'll find out that the best competitors are also the best leaders on a team. Do you have to be the captain to be the leader? Absolutely not. You lead by example,
Yeah,
and they go about their work, their body language, how they interact with their teammates and coaches. Uh, they're looked up to by other teammates. You don't have to be a captain to do that. That's just you giving 150% of yourself to that game that day. Understand the impact of your attitude. You'll be surprised if you do that. Team chemistry will feed off your leadership and how you play.
yeah,
You go hard, somebody else will go hard. Again, do you have to have that C on your jersey? Absolutely not. I mean, a true leader knows when to get excited and fire everyone up on the team, and when to keep calm and handle pressure situations, and your teammates will follow that example. And I'll tell you, if a coach could find a person that's a leader by example, they would take them for their roster. I know I would.
absolutely.
I'm sure you've had them. You've got them this summer on your summer team that you're coaching.
Yeah.
You know, those kids go out. Or how many coaches do you see? They go down to the end of the dugout and say, "Hey, look, I need you to get these guys going. What can you do?
Yeah.
Can you get them
Happens
going?"
all the time.
You know,
You know,
that's all. That's all it takes. Uh, and they don't have that captain on their jersey. The captain. I'm not saying the captain's not a leader, but the captain is also a popular player too.
yeah, and I always tell people this: there's no coin flip in baseball.
Correct.
I kind of did away with captains and maybe do our leaders a little bit different, because voting on any type of captain a lot of times, and it depends on the maturity of your team, turns into popularity contest,
Makes
right? But one time I did one of the best things I think I ever done as a coach was a survey monkey survey thing, and the players did it. And at the end, I'm like, list the top 3 most influential players, like in a positive way, right? And that when you start getting hit with the same kid, and if that kid is somebody in your mind that's like, I see leadership qualities, then you got it right. Then you got it right.
Oh yeah.
And then sometimes you find out different things that you didn't know about your team in those situations. But leadership is like the word love. It's thrown around way too much with very little understanding. So, what how do you find leaders? How do you develop leaders? You want every kid on your team to be a leader in their own way. You want them to be self-starters. You want them to have leadership qualities. They don't have to Not everyone's going to be good at leading a group of people. But if everybody's a self starter, if everybody takes care of their own business, if everybody plays hard, if everybody's into the team first culture, which those four things I just said don't seem like they're very hard to develop, but it's really hard to find a group of kids that are willing to do that. And I think that if you just watch, if you ask a coach, if I just watched practice every day for 30 days and got to know your team, you could identify those leaders without asking anybody, just watching. Who do the kids gravitate to? Who do the kids listen to? Who thinks they're a leader and they're not?
And nobody's asking you to be the MVP of the team.
Right.
A leader and an MVP are two different things.
There's a lot of guys that think they're leaders and try to act like leaders and just want the title,
right,
or are pushy about it and aren't, and that creates bad culture too. It's tricky.
Oh yeah,
leadership is tricky, and that's why you try to. I think you. It starts in the recruiting process. That's the other thing. I really believe good coaches and good recruiters who are honest and upfront, they manage expectations through the recruiting process. They identify people who can fit in their culture. And of course, look, there's guys that lying to you if they're not like, I'm looking for good players, and I'm not looking for good players.
Right.
I'm looking for the best. Of course, you're looking for good players. We wouldn't be on the telephone, right?
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I think the really, really good recruiters that are really into culture are interviewing you, and trying to, even in the recruiting process, trying to figure out if they want to make you an offer.
Exactly.
Not because you have some guys that are, man, they're like gambling in Las Vegas, right?
Oh yeah.
The second I'm calling, and I've been guilty of that too. I mean, you're playing text and phones, and you're throwing money at guys, and you're trying to get them, and
That's right.
Whoever calls back first gets it. I got one scholarship left. I've made 3 offers. Whoever calls back first, that type of stuff. There's a lot of, you got to be a used car salesman too. You can be genuine. Look, at the end of the day, you can be you have to be genuine as a recruiter. You have to tell the truth. You have to be honest, right?
Right. That's right.
However, you're a salesman. I've been a salesman. Coach Coons has been a salesman. Augie Garrido was a salesman.
Exactly.
But remember though, the salesman approach doesn't stop when the kid signs. When the kid gets in the program, you've got to keep selling them as well.
Exactly.
So they'll eventually buy it. So that's not all salesmanship
is over.
Bad.
That's right.
Not all bad, right? It's not all bad. Remember that.
Well, and those are the 5 traits of a competitor. Then, are you prepared? Preparedness. Are you smart? Do you know the game? Do you understand the game? Do you know the rules of the game? Those things. Are you mentally tough? Are you consistent? And can you be a leader? A leader of your group, a leader of your team, anything. I think, especially in today's age, when you hear there's 5,000 kids or 5,000 players, this is baseball now, in the transfer portal, you got to be a true competitor at the high school level to be noticed. That will give you another in for these coaches, because let's face it, it's hard right now. It's hard. I mean, there's the transfer games and coaches. There's more people going to see a college kid during summer league right now that's in the transfer portal than there would be for a summer high school travel team.
And you could never, and it was always totally taboo in summer ball if a kid
That's
transferred.
right.
I mean, the head guy was like, I'm never going to send you another kid to play again, and transfer. And I mean, that was a huge, when I was, first in the coaching, mid-years in the coaching, even as a player. If you went and played college ball, summer baseball, wooden bat league, all that good stuff, and you ended up transferring the summer, it was a huge deal. There were 2 coaches on the phone going at each other, yelling. You poached. We used to call it poaching.
Yeah.
You go, you meet a group of friends, you want to go to their school. That kid just so happens to pick up the phone and call his college coach and say, I got this kid on my team. He's awesome. He's one of my best friends now. And he's like, the best shortstop player, blah, blah, blah. What should I tell him? Well, he's got to contact me first. That's how it gets started. I'm telling you right now, that's how it gets started. Okay? And as a player, did I get put in that position with buddies? Absolutely. And back in the day, if you're a real friend of another guy and a bigger school just happens to say something to you, like for example, one thing that happened to me was I was at a tryout and I had one of my college teammates with me, and there was a Division I school there, and that Division I school walked up to me and my buddy, who were teammates of another buddy, and said, I really like that player. Use that to your discretion, and turned around and walked away. And me and my buddy looked at each other and said, we can't not tell him. So we did, and 2 weeks later, he transferred to that school.
Right.
That's how it used to get. Probably still happens like that to a certain extent, but that's how it happened back in the day, and it caused a lot. That's when compliance coordinators were calling you and asking for investigations and stuff, and you're like, I just told my buddy that this guy did he. So look, it's changed a lot,
Right.
but
And that's why I think a business like ours, a head and account recruiting, is valuable to the point. The kids we worked on, we've had 100% in helping kids find schools. 100%. We haven't had one that hasn't. And I think what you got to do is we can show you how to be that great competitor, give you tips on it. We have access to help you with schools and get you noticed when that coach might not be noticing you because they're looking at something else.
Yep.
So, take the time, go on our website. It's right there with my name, aheadandAccountRecruiting.com. Fill out that questionnaire. And like I say, there's no obligation. Uh, I'm sure you're not telemarketing 18,000 kids. I know I'm not.
Nope.
And I talked to a young man on X the other night, and I said, when you want to give me your number, you let me know. We're not a hard sell here. We're coaches first. We're parents. We're enthusiasts, but we do know what it takes to get into college and play.
Yep.
Whether it's softball, baseball, we're there. So we're here to help you. Again, headandAccountRecruiting.com. Check us out. We'll be on next week. We'll send that out on X the day we'll be on, and we'll have another topic. But be that great competitor in your sport, in your life, in whatever else you do. Be that person.
Absolutely. Well said.
We'll see you next week.